So this is Ryan Routh. This is the guy who tried to assassinate Donald Trump the second time. So Ryan Routh is pro-Ukrainian. Let's just get right into it. And this is him. This is him, and he's going to be talking about Ukraine and recruiting people to fight in Ukraine. So let's listen.
Please tell me who you are and why are you here?
I'm 56 from the U.S. From North Carolina originally, so live in Hawaii now. So flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook. Any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another. And it's just a matter of, we need to stand up for that. That is.
Okay, so I'm going to talk more about who this guy is and what people have found out about this guy. But, ostensibly, um, you can see he is gushing with love for Ukraine. Um, Spoiler alert, there's good reason to believe that this guy is actually, I don't know if he's a CIA agent, but maybe he is working for the CIA or working with the CIA. There is a CIA connection. And you can see he looks kind of disheveled. He has his colored hair, which is supposed to match the flag of the Ukrainian flag. But yeah, he's actually going to talk about how he's recruiting people to fight in Ukraine. And we're going to get into some even more juicy details about that later.
Is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united, so that we feed each other and make sure that we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit, and we have to get along and work together and be normal human beings. This is 2022. We have to work together. It seems.
Okay, so remember what he said there. 2022. So this was filmed at the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This was a huge deal at the time. It's still a huge deal, but like there was a lot of hype because there were actually Americans going to Ukraine to fight in Ukraine. So it just gives you a little context. This is the guy who tried to assassinate Donald Trump. So this was filmed 2 years ago, just for context.
Asinine that we have a leader in a country that does not understand the concept of being unselfish and being generous and being kind, and just the basic moral values that are required by human beings these days. It blows my mind.
And what are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army. But I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience, so they're like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. We need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians. We need, we've got 190 countries around the world.
Okay, so he's trying to claim like, okay, I came out here to do my part and fight and die for a foreign country, Ukraine, you know. And he's saying, well, I was too old, so they're saying we're not looking for that age bracket to fight on the front lines just yet. So his backup plan is to recruit thousands of people to fight in Ukraine instead. How exactly does a random guy who's just, trying to join the Foreign Legion or whatever, just is able to have access to thousands of people? And like I said, later on, you're going to find out that this guy somehow managed to get thousands of Taliban mercenaries to fight in Ukraine. That's a thing.
And we need thousands from all of them. If the governments will not send their official military, then we civilians have to pick up the torch and make this thing happen. And we've gotten some wonderful people here, but it's a small fraction of the number that should be here. If we have 5,000, to 10,000 people here fighting, that is just a minuscule amount of the 5 billion people on the globe. We need everyone here fighting. That's why I'm in Kyiv. So every project that I promote is about getting people here to support the Ukrainians. We were at a critical juncture in this war where we are sitting on the fence as far as whether good or evil is going to win. Right now we're looking at a situation where the world is waning and it's thinking that this is important or not. And we're at a point where, all right, are we going to stand for humanity, for human rights, for everything that is good with the world? Or are we just going to ignore it? If everybody is complacent and doesn't join this fight, then guess who's going to win? It might take 10 years, but we're going to lose this battle if everyone around the globe does not stop what they're doing, get off the couch, and come to Ukraine and defend the human rights of everyone around the globe. This is the most important thing going on in the world today. So sitting around and letting life go on as normal and complaining about gas prices and complaining about, your luxury life in whatever country you live in is unacceptable. As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. So I've been dealing with Russia for my entire life. We had one period where it was okay, but now we've let it slip back into terrorism. So it's just, the world needs to respond. Why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. This type of behavior is unacceptable anywhere, any place. So it's totally unacceptable. And why people are not responding, I do not know.
What impressed you the most since you are here?
My trip to Irpin was pretty emotional. So, going and seeing the buildings that were burned and destroyed and things of that nature. I think more emotional for me is just talking to the guys that have come here. When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here and fight, that is heroism. He's coming here to risk his life for humanity, for the Ukrainians. Guys that sell everything they own to come here and support the Ukrainians while others sit at home and do nothing. It's totally mind-blowing how we have this divide of people that are selfless and courageous and wonderful and willing to sell everything they own to come here and support, keep people from getting killed, to shelter kids and protect Ukrainians, and others that just, want to sit at home and not. It's just, it's an indictment of our entire human society to say, hey, where do we stand? Do we stand for...
Okay, so, just taking this at face value, you could interpret this 56-year-old old fart as someone who's very passionate about Ukraine. Maybe he has Ukrainian ancestry, for all we know. Or he could be someone working with or for the CIA for, that purpose, right? So there are two interpretations of what we're seeing here. He's getting emotional. I knew some guys that sold everything they owned and they came out here just to fight, and everyone else is just sitting around and watching SpongeBob SquarePants. Or he is working with the CIA, somehow recruiting thousands of Taliban guys to fight in Ukraine. Again, we'll get to that.
For good, or do we just not care? I mean, does the world not care? That's the feeling that I wrestle with every day in my interactions with everybody. Every one of us is responsible for the outcome of this war. Every one of us. by our actions and what we do. And when I call back home and say, hey, I need $5 so I can, put enough money together to get a vest for a Ukrainian, and I get no response, I'm like, I'm not sure that the world is as wonderful as I once thought it was. I had thought that everyone would respond, very generously and unselfishly, and you don't have to come, but if I ask for $5 to buy a vest to save a Ukrainian life, it seems like that would be a no-brainer. But I increasingly get more disappointed in humanity, and I'm beginning to question whether or not we're going to end up on the right side of this equation.
So you are working with the International Legion.
Yes.
And you are trying to convince people to help, to donate, and to join.
Yeah.
My final question is, what would you say to the people in order to convince them to join the International Legion, or to donate for it, or to be involved in the humanitarian aid to Ukraine?
Right. It's just extremely important, the whole thing. As far as joining the military, yes, if you have some military experience or know people with military experience, encouraging them to come and fight. We have units all over the place. So, there were some leadership issues initially, but we've got so many units available to us: Georgian, Crimean, Ukrainian, Territorial Defense, Foreign Legion. We have, so many paramilitary groups. I put a 74-year-old Japanese guy in a unit. So, we have girls in units. So we have two girls that are in the unit up the street. So any gender, any age, any skill level to no skill level. But yeah, if you want to fight, come here and see me, and I'll put you in a unit so you can go fight. But regardless of that, we should have thousands upon thousands of people standing here with the Ukrainians. This Maiden Square, Independence Square, we should have millions of people in this square, filling the square from every country around the world. And why we don't, I don't understand. I'm here every day with all the flags from all the supporting countries, with the memorials for the people that have died. And, I've had several people come, but just a handful, So it blows my mind that I'm standing here alone without thousands of people from every country, from Asia, from Africa, from Australia, from Canada, from everywhere in South America, every place.
Europe.
Europe, everywhere. We need everybody here. If you have no skills, just come. We need to be cheerleaders. Just being here and saying, hey.
That's kind of an interesting thing that the interviewer had to add. Europe. Is that a gaffe on this guy's part? What was the reason why he didn't think to say Europe was because he's not recruiting anyone from Europe. He's recruiting people from the Taliban and other parts of Africa. So those are his base of operations. Not sure, but I think that's a little suspicious that he didn't think to mention Europe.
I support the Ukrainians, and I support human rights, and I support good and generosity and caring and kindness and altruism. And it's just, we need to show the world that we care. And it's essential. If you don't do any work at all, just being here and supporting and showing them that we care for our fellow human beings is the most important thing we can do.
Okay.
Please tell
me
who.
So why might be the question that some people are asking. Now, this is something I suspected about the first assassin as well, and I think I posted about it on Twitter, that why would a pro-Ukrainian person want to assassinate Donald Trump? The reason why is because Donald Trump is very pro-Russian, and if he gets elected, it benefits Russia in this war, objectively speaking. Because what's going to happen is the aid and the military aid, the financial aid and the military aid to Ukraine is going to dry up. It's going to diminish. He might even stop it entirely. He might get a lot of pushback, because he's surrounded by an oligarchy who's going to yell and scream in his ear to send more aid, more weapons to Ukraine. However, he is going to be reluctant to do that. So that is the reason for why a pro-Ukrainian person would want to assassinate Donald Trump. Because if Donald Trump wins, Ukraine is going to lose the war. I'm just telling you that right now. Or at the very least, Ukraine will be forced to uh, make a ceasefire, make a deal with Russia. And that deal will be unfavorable to Ukraine. They're going to have to concede the territory that they want, which is the Donbass and Crimea and any other gains that Russia makes. And they don't want this, especially Ukrainian nationalists. They don't want this. They want to take it all back. Um, so without going into the whole history of what's been going on lately with Kursk and all the rest, this is the motive. Okay, so these are the people who want to assassinate Donald Trump. And I'm telling you, the first assassin almost certainly was also pro-Ukrainian or had similar connection to the CIA. So let's examine some of the evidence. Now, first of all, his Twitter account was one of the last social media accounts that was still up at the time of the shooting or the assassination attempt. Maybe, like, I heard that maybe he didn't shoot at all, but it doesn't really matter. The X account originally was there, but then, like right when I was even looking at it, they suspended it and took it down. Luckily, some people did back up some stuff. So we have little snippets of what's going on here. And you can see right here, you know, he's talking about getting, you know, thousands of foreigners to go and fight in Ukraine. Um, so he's a recruiter. He is so these are mercenaries. I don't know if the Foreign Legion still counts as a merc unit or not. It doesn't really matter. But these Taliban guys, they are, yeah. So that's the thing. He was talking about the Taliban as well. I know he didn't say in this video, but you'll see it later. Um, Here, I tried to quote reply to him. Unfortunately, they nuked it. I should have taken a screenshot, but it doesn't matter. But he talked about how he found thousands of Taliban guys willing to fight in Ukraine. Fight and die for him? No, he's not some rando. He's backed by a federal agency, likely the CIA, and they just couldn't delete his X account in time. They were scrambling to get that done, and they were able to get all the other social media accounts nuked. The reason why it was delayed with X was because of Elon Musk. Elon Musk probably pushed back because he is trying to be pro free speech, but at the end of the day, he's going to acquiesce. So let's look at this video. So this is by Ian Carroll, and he does a lot of great work. He does a lot of great work in doing this investigating into all these people and getting to the bottom of it because we need people like this working overtime for free to uncover the truth about all these lies because there's so many. The government lies about so much stuff and it's enough already. But let's just watch the video.
So the new Trump assassin just dropped, and there's some spicy details already. Ryan Routh, very strange guy who's lived a very strange life. And this time, the internet was wise and archived all of his socials as much as possible before the FBI took it all down. So here's some basics on what we know about him, and one really interesting rabbit hole about who he might be. Right off the bat though, it's super early. This is all speculative. Take your time, pump the brakes. We're just digging through dirty laundry. We don't know what sticks yet. But this guy is a private American citizen who traveled to Ukraine on his own dime, to help recruit civilian soldiers to fight for Ukraine and Afghan special forces. He was like recruiting on his Facebook page. Here's an archive of all of his tweets that look pretty damn automated to me. They pretty much all look like this. In a past life in Hawaii, he apparently ran this company that made a single tiny home and a single Facebook page and never did anything else with it. Super weird. But I grabbed everyone that he followed on Twitter before they deleted it. He only followed 60. And right down at the bottom of that list, which I think indicates his first follow, is this girl named Sue Kim, who is ex-CIA, along with some other very interesting things. Now again, reminder, this is just speculation, digging through Twitter dirt. Maybe this chick is just a wonderful, patriotic person that's helping America. Who knows? But her account is private, meaning why does he follow her? I've been digging around, and one of my followers said that they found her in the people that follow him back. I have not been able to confirm that for myself because they took the account down. If you've got a video of the 1.2 thousand followers that followed him, that would be great to know. He says that she was at the bottom of his followed list, meaning that she followed him right when he made the account. That would make sense, seeing as she's at the bottom of his following list of who he follows too. I mean, every asset needs a handler. And when you go through some of these other affiliations here, you get what is essentially the CIA training grounds at Johns Hopkins University. It explores the relationship between politics and the many kinds of military power, from the use of terror by small non-state groups to the threatened use of nuclear weapons. Its director is John McLaughlin, who is literally an ex-acting director of the CIA and ex-deputy director of the CIA, 3-decade career at the CIA. David is third on the list of people at the top of this institution at the university. 30-year career in Army Special Forces, various special operations, invading various countries, as well as Operation Enduring Freedom. You get the idea. Anyways, Rand Corporation. That's a military-industrial complex think tank, kind of like the Atlantic Council. And LMI org, yeah, that's like a military-industrial complex education and training program as well. Preliminary findings on the internet when you search our homeboy, the shooter, show his arrest record, including in 2002, possession of weapons of mass destruction, Class F felony, along with 3 other blocks of things like possession of handguns or concealed weapons and driver's license stuff. And yeah, that sounds like some operative shit to me. But again, we don't know any of this yet. We're just digging through dirty laundry on the internet. It's hard to tell what's real. But this is a photo of the weapon he used and the setup he had. People are speculating it looks an awful lot like, you know, Russian-Ukrainian class of rifle. He's doing these weird recruitment ops in Ukraine for civilians. Well, he's like posting on his Facebook all the time to like no followers about how he's recruiting hundreds of civilians to fight for Ukraine. Like posting for like Afghan special forces to contact him so they can come fight in Ukraine. But he's like just a random citizen from Hawaii. And one of the 60 people he follows is this CIA gal that allegedly follows him back. That looks an awful lot like a handler or a contact. His account looks an awful lot like a bot or an MK Ultra or a Pato. Who knows what the hell this is? His criminal record looks an awful lot like what you might expect a kind of guy in this kind of line of work to leave behind. And then there's the weird video evidence getting turned up.
Officials in Kyiv simply aren't interested in recruiting them.
Ukraine is reluctant to be cooperative.
That's Ryan Routh, a U.S. citizen who set up the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine to help connect foreigners to Ukrainian military units.
Now I'm talking to over 100 soldiers every day, and pretty much everybody, all of my contacts in Ukraine, they were adamant and pretty much yelled at me every time that I suggested that we bring in Afghans.
The Ukrainian government didn't respond to our request for comment, but a source close to the officials in Kyiv told Semaphore that their top concern is the question of loyalty in the thick fog of war.
The biggest thing is spies. They're afraid that anybody and everybody is a Russian spy.
Okay, real quick, this is a thing. So he's saying that they're concerned about these Taliban guys being Russian spies, but they're not actually concerned about them being Taliban guys. You know, we call them Taliban terrorists, blah, blah, blah. There's actually ISIS fighters, terrorists, fighting in Ukraine, on Ukraine's side. And I'm pretty sure there's Al-Qaeda fighting in Ukraine, on Ukraine's side as well. I don't have that queued up. I'll have to find it later, but there's been reports of this. Okay? That's a thing. I'll post it in the description, in the citations, all right?
Shout out to some bitch I know on X, who currently has one of the best archives of all of his socials and accounts. There's a lot of other people doing good work right now. And again, I just want to clarify. I'm not trying to pretend like I've solved the case or like we know what's going on. We just have learned by now that the FBI is going to just cover everything up. And so it's up to us to try to dig everything out before they do. So that's what we're doing. And yes, it's ridiculous that that is even a set of sentences we have to say in America in 2024 when someone tries to kill the former and future president of the United States of America. And I mean, I can only imagine who might be backing up these operations to try to shoot him and who might be providing the intel and the access and the cover-ups, etc. So last thing I'll say, Ryan Routh, he's currently in custody. He was driving away in an SUV. They caught him. He's alive for now. And I just want to remind us all, Ryan Routh did not kill himself. If cameras malfunction outside of his cell, if he has a weird slipping accident, whatever happens, yeah, you know the story. 50 more days, my money's on at least one more attempt before we get there. So stay frosty, because the war machine desperately needs the wars to escalate, and they're not down with the MAGA Maha folks shutting down the wars. And they are ready to kill people, ready to assassinate, allegedly, apparently, theoretically, just jokingly, in order to perpetuate those wars. So
Okay. One of the things that stood out to me is like just how different this guy looks when he's in that suit. Like, look at him. And like he's standing outside of the Capitol building in a suit. He looks very different than how he looks, over here. Like here, he just looks like a hipster. And then over here, he just looks like your cliche CIA operative or something like that. He could be a politician. He looks very normal there, with that suit. Just it goes to show you, like how, just the way you dress and your hairstyle, can change perception on, who you are and what you are. That's the reason why I wore that creepy ass hood back in the day. Like I was trying to subvert expectations and hoping people could judge me based upon the things I was saying rather than what I looked. And it turns out that people really do prejudge you based upon what you look like. And that's just how humanity is. Oh well. Social experiment failed. But the point is that this guy, yeah, what did we learn? Let's recap. Um, so why would a pro-Ukrainian person want to assassinate Donald Trump? It's because Donald Trump is pro-Russian, and if he gets elected, Ukraine will be forced, at the very least, to negotiate a ceasefire that is unfavorable to them and favorable to Russia. That war is going to end sooner or later if Donald Trump gets elected. And this is anathema to what pro Ukrainian people want and what, honestly, the federal government wants, what the CIA wants. They do not want that outcome. They want it to continue. They want the flow of money and weapons to continue into Ukraine to support them in the war. Um, this guy, Ryan Routh, is probably working with the CIA. He could be a CIA operative himself, and he's recruiting Taliban guys, other foreign fighters. He gaffed and forgot to mention, oh, yeah, we get people from Europe too. He can't get people from Europe. He's going to find mercenaries. You get mercenaries from impoverished countries because that is their service. That's the best service they can provide is young men willing to fight and die in service to a foreign country. And then they can get a little bit of money, get some money sent back to their families. That's a service that they're willing because, hey, like what do they have to lose? Their lives, big deal. Their lives are terrible. They're poor. But people who are living in affluent countries, live good lives, they're going to be far less likely to want to sacrifice their good life to fight and die for a country that they don't even live in. So these are the things that we need to think about. And once again, I believe the first guy, the first assassin, I'm forgetting his name now, it doesn't fucking matter. He probably was pro-Ukrainian or was working on the behest of a federal agency like the FBI or the CIA or whatever. That's where the evidence is pointing towards. We don't have the smoking gun. We don't have the direct evidence of it yet, but we're never going to get that, right? Because that evidence is actively being destroyed and sabotaged. So it's up to us to use a body of evidence that points towards a singular conclusion, right? Now, there are some people saying that these assassination attempts were staged to increase uh, Trump's poll numbers, to get him more electable. And while I don't necessarily agree or believe that, I'm still remaining open-minded. You know, this is preliminary time. We don't have any definitive conclusions, so we need to remain open-minded to all possibilities, and examine the evidence and see what it is pointing towards. Okay, keep an open mind. That's it. See ya.